All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our hangout this afternoon. My name is Ryan Dodge. I'm the social media coordinator here at the Royal Ontario Museum. I'm here hanging out this afternoon with fashion and textiles curator Dr. Alexandra Palmer and fashion designer Izzy Camilleri. There's a great show coming up on June 21st called Fashion Follows Form, Designs for Sitting, that Alex and Izzy have been collaborating on over the last little while. And we're here today to talk about that exhibition, but also this area of fashion that Izzy's been working in over the last 5 or so years, I think. Izzy, is that correct?
Yep.
All right. So Izzy, why don't you start and just introduce yourself a little bit and talk about your background and how you got into working with this area of fashion.
Okay. I've been a fashion designer for about 30 years, and I started with very high fashion, lots of glam, sexy, rock and roll kind of stuff. And about 10 years ago, I met a woman who was quadriplegic from a horrible incident, and she was looking for someone to custom make some clothing for her, and it was through this woman that my eyes were open to all the challenges that people have when they're sitting in a chair, the challenges with clothing, and just the issues of even getting them on and off.
Right.
The seed that was planted for me to do what I'm doing now.
Right. And so Alex, I just wanted, you've been doing research in this area, and the exhibition talks a little bit about the historical background. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? I read something about that there has been a little bit of this stuff done in the 18th and 19th century, but maybe can you talk about that a little bit, or is that completely wrong?
No, I can talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, I actually the reason for this show is because of Izzy's work, her IZAdaptive work, which is for people when they're sitting in wheelchairs, and so it's a very specific design. And actually, go to a yoga studio, which is right near her shop in the Junction in Toronto. And I was walking by thinking, wonder what this fashion store is. And she had this sexy leather jacket in the window, and all these mannequins were sitting on blocks, and I thought, I didn't really pay any attention. And I went in, and then I started talking, and it was Izzy, who I'd known previously from her previous fashion life. And she did something here at the ROM when we opened our new crystal. We had lots of Canadian fashion designers who showed great things in our gallery. And she started explaining to me what she was doing, and I was completely taken aback. It wasn't anything I'd ever thought about or heard about. And then she started showing me what she was making in her patterns, and in particular her men's pants pattern, the garment, is cut very differently from regular pants that we wear today. And it was completely like an 18th century cut of breeches. And I teach a class about trousers. I'm very interested in the development of cut and technology of fashion and how fashion is evolved, which is a combination of taste and cut and kind of creativity. And looking at these trousers, Izzy had just gone back 400 years to the 18th century cut without realizing what she was doing, because she was just solving the problem of what works best when you're sitting, which is the case for her clients. And the trousers that are designed today are basically designed to look good and work and function primarily when you're standing. And so I just was completely bowled over by her work and thought, wow, this might be a really interesting exhibition. And because I work at the ROM that has a very large historical collection, and I made links between kind of what she's doing for contemporary, and it made me think about the whole point of fashion. If fashion is about function and form, which is what she was designing, her IZAdaptive line is about that, but it's also about fashion. And a lot of historical fashions, corseted forms, funny things, are very much about fashion, and certainly not about function in a sort of how one would think about it, particularly today. And so this kind of intersection of fashion and function and form and particularly for the problem of sitting, which clothes change because you're in a different position, is really kind of the guts of what the show is about. So we hope it works. So there's 18th and 19th century costumes in that
Right.
that illuminate not only the history of fashion and what fashion is, and sort of why do we wear these things in the first place, but and it's mainly about societal boundaries. So, for instance, these 18th and 19th century riding habits for women sitting a side saddle has everything to do with the social conventions, not necessarily the best way to ride a horse.
Right. So I'm interested in knowing, Izzy, did you have, obviously you've done your training and things like that. Did you have an idea that you were bringing back these old patterns when you were putting together these or designing this clothing, or was it just sort of, the connection wasn't made until later on, or can you talk a little bit about that for us?
Sure. Well, until Alex stumbled into my shop, I had no idea that there was any relation to anything historical that I was doing until she had mentioned it. And so, like Alexandra said, when she saw the pant pattern and made the connection to riding pants, I then saw the connection, because when you stand in my pants, it does kind of look like you're wearing jodhpurs or they have a similar look to that. So I understood what she was saying, and then she was making other similarities to the way I cut my coats. Again, she was thinking about the 18th century and how coats were cut to accommodate a bustle, to sitting on a horse, or even royalty. So yeah, it was not until she brought that up did I make the connection. And so it was really interesting, and it's interesting when I bring that up to anybody now that I explain what the exhibit is all about, or people ask, well, how did it come about? And so I always bring up this connection to the historical pieces, and it's quite interesting and funny how it all kind of evolves and comes back.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. So, since Alex brought that to your attention, have you changed up your designs a little bit, or kind of looked back for some more inspiration? Has anything altered?
So far, I haven't.
No?
I've just been looking forward and looking like, I think that the cuts have kind of been established on the most part for me. Now it's just about manipulating the design. It's also about how I can make it more functional for my clients. The cut of the pant is there. Sometimes, we'll modify it to try to improve it. Mm-hmm. Same with the coats, and with our skirts as well. It is, the similarities are there, not exact, but very, very, very close. And so, I'm just taking it into the direction that I need to take it now.
Right. Okay. So let's talk. Let's switch and talk about the exhibition for a little bit. I wonder, Alex, you mentioned the comparison between the 18th, 19th century and Izzy's work. I wondered, what are people going to see in this exhibition? Are they going to see an older piece next to one of Izzy's pieces, or are they going to see more of a chronological approach? Can you talk about that for us?
Well, yes. People are going to see a variety of things. They're going to see IZAdaptive pieces, seated, which is how they're designed to be worn. And they're also going to see a lot of those same pieces standing. And to me, that's what's interesting, because when they're standing, you kind of get how clever they are when they're sitting, because when they're sitting, the clothes look just right. So a pair of pants looks like a normal pair of jeans, and it doesn't seem like there's anything particularly clever about it. But when they're standing, you see they don't look like a regular pair of jeans, and they look funny. They also look kind of avant-garde in the way of kind of Rei Kawakubo or Comme des Garçons, or the some of the Martin Margiela or something, because the shapes are different. And I think that's what makes it kind of startling and gets you to begin to look more closely and understand that what Izzy has done is actually very clever and actually very technical and actually very, very innovative. I must say this is one of the hardest exhibitions I've ever done because it's a difficult subject. It's fashion for people in wheelchairs, which is not something that anyone thinks about. And it's, as Izzy knows, and as you know, it was actually Barbara Turnbull who came to Izzy originally and asked her to make her this cape because she was having difficulty finding things that were functional and certainly fashionable and warm. I mean, she wanted something that worked for her position when she was in the wheelchair, and everything had to be modified or customized, and it's a drag. It's a real drag. And so what Izzy's done is made these things that look perfect. So when you see them and they're on a seated mannequin, they look perfect, and you think, well, what's the big deal? It's it's a coat, it's a suit, it's a dress, it's a denim skirt. But it's only when you see them standing that they look different, and then and you see that the cut has been adjusted. And then the other thing you'll see again are these historical costumes, which make these visual links. I don't expect people to understand everything about pattern cutting and tailoring because very few people know really how to sew anymore. But it does make you stop and think when you see a crinoline bustle and when you see a very beautiful late 19th century cape that you can barely move in. Well, what's the point? Like, what is the point of fashion? And that's kind of what I always want people to think about when they come to the ROM is we all think we know about fashion because we wear it, but I want people to think beyond that and kind of consider, what was appropriate, what makes fashion. Our previous exhibition, Big, looked at big ideas about fashion, even if the pieces were small or modest. And, how do we construct these social meanings of things? And fashion is so important because we all wear it. It's how we present ourselves. It's often how you're assessed by different people. It's very complicated. And so it's that complexity that I find so intriguing, and that certainly Izzy's seated fashions and her seated fashions in a standing mode, and then the historical garments, I hope, really amplify.
Right. I think that's great that you two are bringing this to everyone's attention. Obviously, Izzy, you've been working in this area for it's been over 5 years now, I believe. Mm-hmm. I just want to take a minute to pause for a second and just let everyone know that if you're watching online, we do have the Q&A function opened up. If you're using the viewer on our website, you can type in a question for Izzy or Alex, and we can answer them live. We're also following along on Twitter. We're using the hashtag AskROM. You can tweet us questions to @ROMToronto or @ROMTextiles, which is the handle for our Center of Discovery for our textiles and fashion. Going back to, you mentioned Barbara Turnbull and doing a piece for her, Izzy. And was she involved at all in the development of this exhibition? Did you have people from the community come in and help you along, or was it just sort of something that was done between the two of you and other people? Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, well, on the most part, it was Alex and I.
Mm-hmm.
We have brought Barb in as a kind of VIP for the exhibit.
Both Barb and Jeannie Becker are honorary chairs, which is wonderful.
Mm-hmm. So we have been speaking to some of my clients just about sharing who they are and their own personal stories. But other than the many brilliant people at the ROM that have helped put this exhibit together, Alex has been the madame, and I've kind of been at her side, putting it all together.
Is this forgive my ignorance, Izzy, but is this sort of the first time you've put on an exhibition of this scale? Like, how does it compare to doing a show, doing something that you normally do, putting on the sort of display? Is it hectic, less hectic?
Well, I would say, first off, no, I've never done anything like this before, and it's quite an honor. And it's very different than doing a fashion show. Usually, we don't have such a long lead time as we've had with this. This has been on the table since very early last year. You know, also, yeah, doing a show, it's a fashion show, it's much tighter, and then when it's on, it runs for 15 minutes and then it's over.
Right.
This is completely different. And one other thing that will be on the floor too is some of my fashion pieces, that specifically pieces from a fall collection of 2006. And it's been really great pulling that stuff out and kind of dusting them off and putting them on display. So that's been really
I just
great.
want to interject here because
Sure.
the reason we're doing that is to kind of give a context of Izzy's work, which was extremely high-end. We have this fantastic and also sort of fashionably ridiculous coat, sorry Izzy, of bright red fox fur with patent leather trim. It's just absolutely totally over the top. That was worn by Meryl Streep in The Devil Wears Prada, one of the many clothes that she wore and tossed off. And as well as this Izzy's collection from fall 2006, which was this very, very technically impossible. She tends to set herself, I think, ridiculous tasks of how to piece leather and could you cut them up into more little tiny pieces and reassemble them, or fur. But what happens is you get this incredible fit. It's very precise. It's technically really challenging. And I think Izzy's ability as a pattern maker and as a designer and working for so long in the industry for over 30 years and understanding, you know, how clothes are made, which these collections really show, and they still look fantastic, is why she can begin to start thinking out of the box. And that, okay, so fashion's made like this, but obviously in this instance for people who use wheelchairs, it's not working. So how can we rethink these standard patterns and come up with something that's better and something that works for them and that's great? And it's hard, and it hasn't really been done very well before, or as a line. This is a collection. This is not one-off customized pieces she's making in IZAdaptive. She's thought it through in terms of modern fashion and production and affordability. So it's really a lot, and I think it hasn't been recognized in the fashion world. It's a very marginalized area, and she's a great Canadian designer. So
it's a win-win-win, right? Yeah. No, it's true, you know, and I'm not, you know, a fashionista by any means, but you know, it's something you never hear about, and why, you know, why not? It should be something, and I'm happy that the two of you are working together to bring this to everyone's attention, and you know, appreciate that. I love that we're able to do that at the ROM, where we can bring designers in and share their work and hopefully with a greater audience. Izzy, I was gonna show your website here and just screen share a bit, and wondered if you could talk about, you know, Alex mentioned that it wasn't just that you're not doing actual pieces. It's more of a collection that people can come in and try things on and all that. I'm just gonna bear with me for a second while I get it up, and maybe you could just, I hope you can see that, everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
Great. So this is Izzy's website. It's IZAdaptive.com. You can head here to find all of the different collections. Izzy, what else can people can contact you directly, I'm assuming, and
yeah, you can get the email from the website. We constantly answer questions for people through the website. You can call us. You can also learn a bit more about the history of the company and how I started. Also, there's some client little videos that are like a minute long that just explain the features or the benefits of pants and coats, and speaking. The client is speaking, not me, so it validates what we're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay.
It is an online boutique as well.
Right.
Yeah, we sell online, and we've been gaining clients globally. So that's the
Fantastic.
great thing about selling online is the world is right at your doorstep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, and I also just wanted to show the exhibit page here on our own website, where people can find a little bit more information about it. Just rom.on.ca/en/exhibitions and galleries, and you'll see the page pop up there. The exhibition's starts June 21st. It's on until January 25th. And it's in our Patricia Harris Gallery of Textiles and Costumes on level 4, which is fully accessible by wheelchair, I might add. Ladies, was there anything else that you wanted to cover this afternoon? Are we forgetting anything that we should let people know about?
I would just like to, I mean, as a fashion historian and spending my professional life thinking and reading about historical and contemporary fashion, I really feel I've learned a lot by doing this exhibition. Izzy mentioned the individuals who've contributed. So there's 6 biographies of her clients who have various disabilities or, men and women in various interests or not that much interest in fashion really at all. And their stories are very important because, it's the people behind fashion always, whether it's the dame who wore the Dior dress and where she wore it to. It's the social history, it's the cultural history, it's the context that makes things really interesting beyond just a pretty dress or an unpretty dress. And these people have been very generous in sharing their time and their stories, and they're all very exceptional. And what Izzy offers them, I think, is just access to daily life that just makes one thing, which is getting dressed and wearing clothes, which we all take for granted, a lot easier, and that's a lot. And so it's really quite interesting having to think about fashion in this way, because I certainly have never done so before, and I know Izzy didn't before. She started getting involved, and so it really changes how you think of what is the purpose, what is the meaning of all this stuff that we spend a great deal of time. And I think Izzy said something like, do we really need another shirt? That's
Well, a lot of people that really enjoyed my previous fashion work, wasn't really quite sure the direction that I was moving into. And there's just so much for you and I who are able-bodied and walking around. We have so many choices. And to start working in this area where, it's just white space, there's really nothing there. So for me to think out of the box just took my own career in a whole different path. But, and also when I was thinking for myself about this direction, and being Canadian and being a fashion designer is very challenging. And just designing another pair of pants, designing another jacket, when there's just so many options out there, it's very challenging, and you're just a needle in a haystack in a way. I was fortunate that my work was recognized and appreciated, but it's still just from keeping my lights on and paying my rent, it had a lot of challenges. So moving in this direction just has changed everything, and for me and for my own work and for my life, and as Alexandra was saying, working with people that have these challenges, physical challenges every day, it's quite humbling. And just taking for granted just slipping on a pair of pants in the morning, we just don't think about it. But for someone who is challenged, that's a very difficult task, and one that takes a lot longer than what you and I do every day. So it was just great. It's been very eye-opening, humbling. I feel like I've become a much more compassionate person to my fellow human being, and just so much that it goes beyond words sometimes.
Right. No, it sounds like you're yeah, just carving out your own niche, Izzy. That's fantastic. I just wanted to hold up the summer edition of our Raw magazine just came out. Features all the ladies involved in the exhibition, the honorary chairs, and Izzy and Alex, and talks a little bit more about this this area of fashion that really is revolutionary. And congratulations, Izzy, on and Alex, on getting this show together and having it here at the museum. If there isn't anything else, I think we're good. The show starts on the 21st again. If you can find all the information on the ROM website. If you have any other questions, you can get a hold of us through Twitter or through the website.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, ladies.